to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. And many more. And many more. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. It is Thinking Thursday, Theology Thursday, and I had a really good time last night getting back into my painting groove. And I spent about 5 hours painting nonstop. Now, some of these paintings that I'm going to show you today are ones that I did from last night. One is one I did last week. But I am finding myself wanting to paint about the Kingdom of Congo. We've done a couple of readings here about it and how that plays into Black American spiritual and religious culture, and also how that plays into the practice of hoodoo, which is a combination of Congo Christianity and African traditions. So, what I want to do is I started telling a story. Now, I don't know if I'm going to keep painting on this, but right now I think I have maybe one more painting to do. Um, but I don't know. These panels, I don't know. They might turn into an illustrated book. I might use them later to maybe make a children's book around the Kingdom of Congo and hoodoo. Who knows where these paintings might go? They are all um, handheld size. They're 11 by 14. And so I'm going to walk you through the paintings and explain a little bit about the symbolism inside of the paintings. And then we're going to do a little bit of reading today. All right. So this is the first painting panel I did, and it is called Bloodlines. Bloodlines. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to tell part of the Congo Kingdom story and also the Black American story through visuals. Something that I could use to explain to children um, or even young adults, anybody who wanted to sort of know some of the story around the Kingdom of Congo. So, of course, this red here flowing all the way through sort of represents, good morning, sort of represents the bloodline or the generations. And I wanted to use the plants here because, of course, in African traditions, um, plant-based medicine is a huge part of that. So I wanted to kind of illustrate that here. And then here you will see a date. This is actually 1491. It's probably flipped backwards on your camera, but it's 1491. And I have this almost like a sweetgrass woven basket texture in the background. 1491 is the date that the Kingdom of Congo um, received Christianity. This symbol here, the black, the red, the yellow, and the white with the cross, that is actually Congo cosmology. It's also known as the Congo cross. This symbol was actually taken with them when they crossed the waters, which is this representation here. All right. Um, when they crossed the waters in 1619, so this is just kind of dealing with the transatlantic enslavement. But when they crossed, they took this symbol with them. There are several places, good morning, there are several places in the Underground Railroad where this symbolism was found. And so this is one of the symbols that was carried with our ancestors through the transatlantic slave trade into the Americas. So I want to highlight this Congo cross symbol. Also, you can kind of see the Ankh here formed in the background. Now, these dots here also represent coin, it represents gold, it represents the resources, it represents also the people being a form of resource as well. So then you have 1619, and then you have these other dates here. You have 1865, which was the end of enslavement, but then you also have 1877, which was the compromise that brought us into like Reconstruction and all of the horrors of that, where they basically were trying to take back power after the enslaved went free. Then I have the dates up here, 64, 65, which represents the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights Voting Act. And you don't see any present dates on here because the struggle continues, right? So this is my first panel. I call this panel Bloodlines. And it's an easy way for me to share with young people the story of part of the Africans who came over through the transatlantic slave trade. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, so then last night, as I said, I kept coming back to this theme, and I said, what else do I want to tell about this, the kingdom of Congo? And so this is the panel that I painted last night. And this panel is called Seed Form. All right, Seed Form. And I wanted to show something that symbolizes, it kind of looks like a nucleus, right? I wanted to show something that symbolized how the people were before they were taken out of their element, right? So again, you see the Congo cross symbolized with the colors and the circle, but this is also the cowrie shell, right? The cowrie shell represents a part of the wealth. Again, I'm using the symbolism of the plants that brought about medicine and healing for the people. And then I wanted to do a mesh between water and blood. I was thinking about the saying that says the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, and the fact that we need blood and water. This also is supposed to symbolize, creation and us having life and us being born and us coming into the world. So here in the background, I have sort of this, I'll bring it a little bit closer. I have sort of this almost like universe type of background in the beginning, before time immemorial. And people often talk about the Big Bang, but I say love was the Big Bang. Love was the thing that brought us all into being. And of course, down here, the yellow sort of represents glory. It represents our power. It represents who we are internally. Regardless of how people try to see us, we have this glory on the inside of us. And it tends to come out into the world through our gifts, through our talents. The fact that we are some of the most oppressed people in the world, but yet we are also some of the most imitated people in the world. All right, so this is the panel, and this one is called Seed Form. All right, the next panel after Seed Form is I wanted to tie in again the symbolism of the Congo cross, which is the red, the yellow, the black, and the white circling. And then I wanted to do, I did look at some masks and things from the Congo region, Benin and Togo region. And so this is that mask, that face in the center. And then behind it, this actually represents chains. This represents chains in the background, and the blood and the soil and the sweat and the tears that went into and occurred in the lives of the people who had been captured. Here in the background, you'll see the symbol K for the Kingdom of Congo. All right, so that is the third panel. And this panel, what did I name this one? Oh, I named this one Keep Me Near the Congo. All right, and then the last panel, and this one is called Dawn of a New Kingdom. Dawn of a New Kingdom. All right, notice that the chains here are becoming green. There's prosperity that has happened, even though we have been brought through some trials, we've been brought through some tribulations. We as the people, right, of all shades of melanin, that's what this here in the center represents. We as the people are rising again, because at the heart of everything is our Creator, and we will rise again. We will break through again. We will be light of the world again. So this one is called Dawn of a New Kingdom. All right. So that's what I was painting on last night. I was up until about 1:30 in the morning finishing up. I still have to seal those, but I think I might have one more painting in me, but I'm just waiting. I do pre-sketches of my paintings in my sketchbook before I um, go to a canvas. And all of those are 11 by 14. I may make them prints. I'm not sure yet, but that's what I was doing last night, which ties into where we're going to continue reading today from this book, The Spirit of Justice. True stories of faith, race, and resistance. We're looking at 1619. That's where we have made it now. 1619. And let us begin. Just want to make sure I get through this. The presence of Africans from the start of European exploration of the Americas, as well as the existence of maroon communities in the Americas, demonstrates that the well-known group of Africans whom Europeans brought in 1619 were not the first to arrive. They were simply the first recorded group to arrive in a mainland North American English colony. So a lot of people have harped on the 1619 date, but the reality is that is the date that marks the recording of those who arrived in an English colony. Okay. In this early era, the question of what social, political, and economic position Africans would inhabit was still undetermined. Okay. In British colonial Virginia, both English and African people could be considered indentured servants with varying levels of freedom. Their labor was not for life initially, and they could eventually gain their full freedom after a number of years. Over time, however, the enslavement of Africans became the primary way to procure inexpensive labor. It is important to note that status in the first decades of European contact in North America depended not only on physical appearance and nationality, but also on religion as well. Professing oneself to be a Christian or a practitioner of another religion could determine the extent to which one was free or unfree. English common law held that Christians could not enslave Christians. That was English common law. So from the start, this custom proved troublesome to the European colonists who sought to place Africans in a place of bondage, because there is recorded and documented proof, as we saw with the Kingdom of Congo, that there were enslaved Africans who were being brought over who were also already Christians. They were not beat into Christianity. Their kingdom had accepted Christianity in the 1400s. So you've got to figure out, okay, if English common law says we can't enslave other Christians, how do we get around this? Okay, just keep that in mind. So from the start, this custom proved troublesome to the European colonists who sought to place Africans in a place of bondage. But European colonists would eventually find ways around the problem of religion to create a permanent class of enslaved laborers. Records from that group of Africans brought ashore at Point Comfort, Virginia in 1619 show that many of the Africans had Christian names and likely had already been baptized into the Catholic Church before their forced relocation, which is what happens. So there were people who were already believers that were brought over here. Among this group were people with names likely anglicized from Spanish, including two Anthonys, two Johns, a William, a Francis, an Edward, and a Margaret. Were these men and women enslaved for life or indentured servants? Did their Christian faith afford them advantages that non-Christians in the colonies did not have? Historians have had a decades-long debate about these questions. Is it possible that these names imply baptism and may have contributed to the uncertain labor status of these early Africans? The saga of the 20 and odd Negroes of colonial Virginia demonstrates that from the earliest days of European contact with North America, the spirit of justice would have led Africans in America to appeal for freedom based on a shared faith. They would have looked to their European captors and made the case for equality because of their spiritual reality, that no matter their skin color or nation of origin, they were spiritual siblings who shared in the eternal inheritance found through faith in Jesus Christ. Their shared religion taught that all people who trusted in God for salvation became part of the same community of faith, who were called to be devoted to one another in love and to value others above yourself. Of course, these entreaties, which were based on both common law and Christian teachings, failed to overcome the desire for land, laborers, and money in the colonies. In a few short decades, it would become apparent that the most lucrative and easily controlled labor force could be defined by skin color, because that is what stood out. Regardless of the religious beliefs the slaver and enslaved may have had in common. And that is insidious. All right. I am going to stop there because I do want to leave some time for us to chop it up. But I want you to think about that. Those in the Kingdom of Congo were already accepting Christ willingly. They were willing converts in the 1400s, 1491 to be precise. So by the time you get to the slave trade happening into the 1600s, you're talking about people who have had over 100 years where they've already been practicing Christianity willingly. So to say that these people came over here and they didn't know anything about Christianity until they were introduced by their slave master is not quite accurate. That might be accurate for some, but definitely not for the people who were coming from the region of Congo. And a lot of people have done their DNA testing and all of that, and there are some more accurate tests out there that are not for entertainment purposes. A lot of people's bloodline comes straight out of the Congo. All right. So if I were you, I would maybe try out African ancestry, which actually gives you a little bit more specifics on region and tribes and all of that. But a lot of African Americans DNA tests say Benin, Togo, and Congo. So you might want to look into that. Okay. All right. Pastor, I saw you there. I'm going to go ahead and try to add you in here. Let's see if we can get you in. And we've got about 15 minutes. All right, it's doing that same thing again. Let me try it again. All right, and let me send it to you this time. Hopefully, it won't be hard for you to find the end. If if you have a question about the paintings that I showed today, you can put your question in the comment section. I'll try to answer it as we are moving along here. Next week, when we come back to this book, we're going to be looking at Anthony Isabella and the first African American child recorded. Okay. And there's a question popping up for you on the board. If you had a superpower, what superpower would you want? If you had a superpower, what superpower would you want? Go ahead and type in your answer. Good morning. Good morning. Can you see and hear me?
Good morning.
All right, I can
I
hear you,
think
but it
you're
sounds a
low,
little
but I can
muffled.
hear you.
Huh? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh, I've recently had a conversation with somebody that called me an idiot because I thought that there was a Central America. See, that area is simply a mass of land between North America and South America.
Hmm.
So I pointed out to them that the massive land of what we call Central America, that is a massive land now, and it's called North America.
Hmm.
Mass of land south of what we call Central America is South
Mm.
is South America. So that massive land between South America and Central America, South America and North America is Central America.
So
But they call
Central
me an
America
idiot.
is the portion of the North American continent that connects North and South America, and it consists of one of the places where my husband's mother is from, Costa Rica, Belize, El
Hmm.
Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama.
Hmm.
They didn't know that?
Well, apparently they do. In all geography and all that social studies and all that stuff is not them different. But because I was pointing out, the main thing is I was pointing out is that where we live at is not America. It's the continent of America. It's the United States.
Right. It's North America.
So America, right? America, yeah. We are the United States of America because North of Canada. And I pointed out to them that America, America, when you're talking about the continents of America, North, Central, and
Hmm.
South, is majority Spanish speaking.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm the idiot. Okay. Okay. And I was also speaking concerning, because this whole thing started when somebody was saying something about the Norse and all that stuff. And I said, well, yeah, the Norse, they were here before Christopher Columbus, but Africans were here before that. And I was pointing this out, because the oldest skull, according to science, the oldest skull ever found in the United States was that of an African woman. And that predates everybody.
Hmm.
So, yeah, we were here first, and the indigenous, many of them speak a dialect of Hebrew.
Hmm.
So, yeah, they were here
I can
before they
confirm
went over to.
I can confirm that because I've talked to some rabbis who have
Hmm.
talked to me about um, they've been like excited to say, "Oh, you're indigenous. You're, one of us." I'm like, I don't know about that, but I have to make my jokes where I can. But yeah, they were talking to me
Mm-hmm.
about how in their own studies, that they have found the connection between some indigenous persons and the Hebrew language. So yeah, even the rabbinical scholars are talking about that now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yes. So, you know, but then they went and brought more here, and that's where you were talking about. And people from and Christianity started in Africa.
I'm having a hard time hearing the last part of what you said
The
because your
original,
your
what we
thing is
call
breaking up.
black. No,
No,
actually,
actually, Christianity, what's known as
began in
Christianity
Africa.
now, began in
Okay.
Africa.
The original
The
Christians were
original
black.
Christians were black.
And again, I don't understand why people have yet to not understand this. Like, even with some black people that I hear talking about Christianity and its foundations, I'm like, listen, people, the Middle East, before it was termed that, they termed it that way so that they could colonize a part of Africa for their own purposes. It was considered Northeast Africa. So when you say Jesus is a Middle Eastern Palestinian Jew, I'm like, no, Jesus is a Northeast African Hebrew. And people want to divorce him from the Northeast African part. They want to divorce him from the African part because that allows them to play around with how we see ethnicity in the present um, age, right? Jesus
Mm-hmm.
was
Hmm.
African. So you can't say to me that Christianity doesn't have an African origin based on who was teaching it and who changed this and who decided certain things about Christ, because Christ himself is the central part of Christianity and he himself was African.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
even if you deal with all of the people who came
Dark
in
skin.
and tried to pollute what Christ stood for, okay, and tried to turn it into a religion of empire, the fact remains that the person that we're following was African. There was no Middle
Hmm.
East back then. He was African. Start there.
Yeah.
And when people
Yeah.
say Christianity is not an African traditional religion, I'm like, listen, Christ was an African. How are you trying to divorce
Mm-hmm.
that
Hmm.
from Christ? So you're saying an African was
Hmm.
not did not form something that was African. See how that doesn't make sense?
Right.
Right. That makes sense.
Now we
Well,
can
that
talk
doesn't
about
make
how
sense.
empire played a part in what we now see as
Mm-hmm.
Christianity. But if you go back to Christ's teachings, that is the core.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
This is why I say I'm a Christ follower. I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
Constantine gospel
Hmm.
follower.
Mm-mm.
Uh-uh.
I'm a Christ follower.
Uh-uh.
Um,
And,
And,
Go ahead.
and here's the
here's the
thing.
thing.
There are
There
many
are
now
many
that are
now that are
actually
actually
going
going
back to
back
what
to what
Christ taught,
Christ taught,
Mm-hmm.
moving
moving
further and
further
further
and
away
further
from
away
what
from
we
what
know
we know
today as
today as
Christianity,
Christianity,
which is
which is
actually a
actually a
religion
religion
Mm-hmm.
which
which
Christ
Christ
did
did
not
not
establish.
establish.
Mm-hmm.
They're
They're
going
going
back
back
now to
now to
what
what
Christ
Christ,
actually
what
taught
he
and what he
established.
established.
Yep. What was the intent of his
So
So there are
teachings?
there are
many
many
people.
people,
Right.
right,
Right.
right.
So
That's
that's
what
what
they're
they're going
going
back
back
to.
to.
They're
They're
actually
actually
studying
studying
it.
it.
And
And here's the
here's the
thing:
thing.
when I
When I
can
can
see
see
an
an
atheist
atheist
speak
speak
on
on
what
what
they're
they're
seeing
seeing
is not
is
what
not what
Christ
Christ
taught,
taught,
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
This is an
This is an
atheist.
atheist.
But they know what
But
Christ
even they
taught.
know what
I
Christ
know.
taught.
And see, that was a part of the prophecy that God gave in 2020. He said 2020 to 2030, atheists are going to come out and start defending me.
Mm-hmm.
And they are.
Because apparently Christians were going to do such a bad job that the atheist was going to have to come out and start saying, "Wait a minute. Wait a minute now. Y'all getting y'all own
Mm-hmm.
savior mixed up." That's when you know it's bad. You
Yep.
know
Yep.
it's bad when the atheists are saying,
Hmm.
"I don't even believe this," but I can tell you God didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
Hmm.
bad it's gotten.
Ba- Based on what I read a lot on, based on that, really believe it, based on that alone, what I'm
What I'm
seeing
seeing
doesn't
doesn't
line
line
up
up
with
with
what
what
he
he
taught. That's basically what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's not lining
it's
up.
not lining
Mm-hmm.
up.
You said that this is the
You
guy.
said that
You
this is
said
the
all
guy.
this,
You
Mm-hmm.
but you're
said
not
all this,
living what he
but
taught.
you're not
Mm-hmm.
living what he taught.
And I'm like, go ahead, atheist.
Me too.
Me too.
Go ahead
Me
on.
too. Go
Cause
ahead.
I'm
Me
try
too.
I'm
Go
tired
ahead.
of talking. Go ahead on.
Mm-hmm.
If they hear it
Hmm.
from me, it's like, you're in this anyway, you know. But if you hear it from somebody outside the
Mm-hmm.
faith,
Hmm.
telling you as a Christian, you're wrong because you're not even following the tenets of Christ, that should be a wake up call
Mm-hmm.
to
Hmm.
you. That what am I doing? What is going on here? And the very things, and I know I have to wrap up here, but the very things that people warned about. And I was thinking about this last night. There's this book. I pulled this last night. This was written in 2016. It's called The Road to Ruin by James Rickards. It's the subtitle says The Global Elite's Secret Plan for the Next Financial Crisis. Do you know we right in the middle of what this man wrote about in 2016? Yeah. Yeah, they spent years, decades warning us about Russia is our enemy. Russia is our enemy. Russia is our enemy. Russia is evil. Da 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 da. Right? But now who are they cozying up to?
Russia.
Because who is friends with the Russian president?
Mm,
Agent
Agent
Orange
Orange.
Rockefeller.
Okay, so it's like y'all were the ones sounding the alarm about who the enemy was, but now y'all buddy buddy with the enemy. But we gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Final thought.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
let's do
let's
some
do
real
some real
serious
serious
research,
research,
some
some
real
real
serious
serious
digging,
digging,
and
and
stop
stop
repeating
repeating
stuff
stuff
because
because
it
it
sounds
sounds
good.
good.
Stop repeating stuff because it sounds good.
Because that's a bunch of
Organized
organized
propaganda
propaganda
that
that
basically
basically
goes
goes
against what
against what
Christ taught.
Christ taught. Let's put it,
Let's
let's
leave it
leave it
like that.
like
It
that. It
goes
goes
against what
against what
Christ
Christ
taught.
taught.
Many
Many
of
of
these
these
things,
things,
and
and
the
the
fact that
fact that
black
black
people are
people are
actually
actually
descendants
descendants of
for
for
the
the
most
most
part,
part,
that
that
are
are
here
here
in
in
America
America.
of Israel. That's fact. Christ is black. That's fact. Billy Graham himself taught on that. You know y'all bleed
You know, y'all
evangelists,
bleed evangelists.
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham,
He
yeah,
even taught on that, but y'all
he even taught on
disregarding
that, but
that.
y'all disregarding that.
Well, I mean that's because
But
they have a new evangelist.
so
Their new
yeah.
evangelist carries the Bible upside down and reads from 2 Corinthians
Hmm.
and has
Yeah.
decided to, spray paint everything in the White House gold. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, people. But we'll save that conversation for another time. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I hope that we have shown you something or said something today that was enlightening. I encourage you to go look up the Kingdom of Congo with a K, Kongo, and Congo Christianity, and learn more about these Africans who in 1491, before Columbus sailed the ocean blue, received Christianity willingly, and then they were later captured and brought over the transatlantic into the transatlantic slave trade. So again, these are Africans who already knew about Christ and were already doing their practices and the practice of Christianity, and they brought those practices with them. And that's how we got hoodoo. We did not get hoodoo from the plantation. We brought hoodoo over here to the Americas. We mixed it in and joined in with indigenous American, Native American practices because there were certain things that we didn't have here that were used in Africa. So we borrowed some things from the natives. Guess what? We also borrowed some things from those early Europeans that came over here who were also indentured servants. So it's a little bit, it's a mixture of a couple of different practices. All right. And I want black people to stop repeating that we have the slave master's religion. It ain't theirs. They have pieced it together, they have cobbled things together, they have scooped things out, but it was never theirs. All right. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I want to thank you for your time and attention. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, to evil. So continue to go out and be what? Light. Take care, everyone, and hopefully see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard.